Hello everyone. Today we're going to spend a few minutes to discuss tissues and how they work together to maintain homeostasis. As we move through this short presentation, I want you to pay attention to the shape and the appearance of the different types of tissues because that will become very important when we look at what and how they perform their job. All right, so there's 4 different types of body tissues. The first we will discuss is nervous tissue. We can see here there's one nerve cell, and remember that cells differentiate to look different depending on their function. So form equals function. I've been trying to say that for a while now. So nervous tissue, its job is to receive and transmit messages in the form of electrical impulses. Take a look at the picture so we can see it's coming from the brain, our spinal cord, and then we have nerves or nerve cells that can span the entire length of our arm. So they can be up to 3 feet in length, which is pretty amazing. No other cell is like that in our body, or no other tissue. So if you look at the picture, you have the cell body. That's the bulk of the cell. And then you have these long axons that end in an axon terminal. And we have the dendrites. Oh, where'd my mouse go? We have the dendrites here, and then the axon would be going off this way. And so they're like long telephone wires, if you will, connecting to each other, sending electrical messages. All right, the next tissue we'll discuss is muscle tissue. Notice that there are 3 different types of muscle tissue, and again, they all look similar because they're all muscle tissue, but they do have some differences as well. Notice that they're all relatively long and spindle shaped, especially smooth muscle tissue. They all have the ability to contract. So they start out long and they can contract and get shorter, which is how we are able to move our bodies because they're connected to the bone. So the movement is the result of muscle tissues contracting, and this is in a coordinated fashion. So if we look at nervous tissue and muscle tissue, those are able to work together, and the nervous tissue sends the signal in the form of electricity to the muscle, and then those muscle fibers will go through a series of metabolic reactions so that it causes the muscle to contract. We're not going to go through the details of that. You'll get to that at a higher level biology class. The third type of tissue here is epithelial tissue. And here we have 3 different types. Once again, we have squamous at the top. This is a flattened cell. We have cuboidal. It's always fun to say. They look like little cubes. And notice this side is simple, so there's just one layer. Here's columnar. And then over here we have stratified. So stratified means that there's layers. So it's depending on where you find these in the body and what its purpose is, it will look slightly different because it has a different function. Remember, form equals function. Okay, so epithelial tissue, the main point here is that it's usually layers of cells that line or cover all internal and external body surfaces. So this is the lining of our body. There are different types and shapes depending on the function. It often provides a protective barrier, and this is the largest organ in the body. Our skin is composed of epithelial tissue. Here we have another look. It says the types of epithelial tissue in vertebrates. We have simple squamous. You can see this lines the lungs and blood vessels. Notice that it's only 1 cell thick, Because remember, talking about diffusion, when we breathe in that oxygen, it doesn't have to diffuse very far to get into our bloodstream. It's going through the lungs to the capillaries. It'll take it to the heart, and then that blood will disperse the oxygen throughout our bodies. So the fact that it's just one cell thick makes that job a lot easier. It's more efficient. This is an example of simple cuboidal. This lines kidney tubules, various glands. It absorbs molecules. So again, we have a little bit more protection here than we do in the lungs. It's a little bit thicker. But again, things are diffusing from an area of high concentration in the middle to the other side. This is how our urine is made. So the toxins, urea, whatnot, flows through, and then it diffuses through those cells, and it will go to the bladder and get released from the body. We're maintaining a state of homeostasis. Okay. Here we have simple columnar. This lines the small intestines and oviducts, the ovaries, and absorbs nutrients. So there's a little bit more protection because they're longer. Goblet cell secretes mucus. We have a mucus area in there as well. And then we have pseudostratified ciliated columnar. That's a mouthful. This lines the trachea. So the cilia that it talks about, if we're talking about homeostasis, anytime dust or any foreign particles come in, these little hair-like structures pulsate and move that substance, that foreign body, up and out. And that's when we cough. So that's the cilia pulsating. We have more mucus, and they're pseudostratified. So it looks like they could be, but they're all kind of wonky looking. There's not really layers of it. It's just simple. Do you need to know all of the different parts? No. I'm just trying to draw attention to look at how different they are while still being, moderately the same, they're still the same tissue, but even though they look different, they have slightly different functions, and they're all working to maintain homeostasis. All right, and the last type of tissue is connective tissue. So the main point here is that these tissues bind, support, and protect structures in the body. Here's a quick overview. I have a full page picture on the next slide. This is the most abundant and diverse type of tissue. Look at how different all of these are. This looks like little threads. Those are the nuclei. These look like cushy pillows. It's adipose tissue. It's fat. Fat is cushy. Areolar tissue that connects the skin to the underlying organs. Blood is considered connective tissue. We have red blood cells versus white blood cells. So even within this category, that's different. And we have bone. Bone is considered connective tissue. This is compact as opposed to dense. This would be like ligaments and tendons. Okay. So this includes bone, cartilage. Cartilage looks kind of like this, like adipose tissue. It's cushy. Gives that cushion when you jump up and down with your knees. Tendons, fat, blood. It connects or holds things together, such as a group of muscles. It's characterized by large cells that are embedded in large amounts of intercellular substance called a matrix. Let's take a look at this larger picture. So here we have the loose connective tissue. We have the locations. Once again, do we need to know all of these different types? No, but I'm put it in here just to draw your awareness to, hey, they're all the same tissue, they're all connective tissue, they'll have a matrix of some kind, and look how different they are because they do different things. And so the thing with tissues, I'm going to move on here. Here's another picture. The thing with tissues is it's a collection of cells of similar cells that all function towards one common goal. But then we have the different tissues. This is an example of the arm you can see here. They're all working together for a common larger purpose. So with our arm, we have epithelial tissue, we have muscle, so we can move our arm. We have nervous tissue, so our brain and spinal cord can get messages to our limb, so we can react to stimuli and react to our environment, move our body. We have blood, which is connective tissue. So our cells can get the oxygen and get rid of the waste. We have cartilage for cushioning, so our bones don't grind together. We have bone, gives us support. And then we have loose connective tissue, padding under skin and elsewhere. So this is just kind of a generalized picture there. So they're all working together for one bigger goal. And then tissues work together to form organs. So here's an example of the stomach. The stomach is an organ. It's made up of several different types of tissue. They're all working together for the larger purpose of digesting food. So in the inside, we have of the lining of the stomach, we have simple columnar epithelium. This is skin. When you hear the word epithelium, I want you to think of skin. Sorry. We have smooth muscle tissue. The smooth muscle is found in your internal organs. We don't have to think about that type of muscle. We're going to look at the different types of cells on Monday, so we'll come back to this. We have loose connective tissue to hold it all together, so it's not just a big mess. We have blood, because we need to keep these cells alive, so it's going to deliver the oxygen, the food it needs to keep those cells alive. And then we have nervous tissue. So nervous tissue, there's nerves all throughout, especially near the sphincters, to open and close these areas right here. This is where the food comes in, that's where the food goes out to your small intestine. And so they're all working together for the larger purpose of digesting your food. Remember, it goes from cells to tissues to organs, and then to organ systems, which we'll get to next week. Here's another example, and this is our last example. So if we look at blood vessels, here we have a artery versus a vein. So I know this is an artery because look at the thick walls. The arteries carry blood away from the heart. The walls need to be very thick so that they can withstand the blood pressure, whereas veins are thinner and they have valves, so you don't have any backflow. You don't want the deoxygenated blood going back into your extremities and pooling. That would not be good. So we have endothelial tissue to line the inner tube. That's this blue area, the pink area over here. We have connective tissue. It provides elasticity. Here it is. So here's the connective tissue. So in the blood, when the heart pumps, it's like turning on the hose full force. You don't want this to pop. That would be bad. So connective tissue provides elasticity and strength to these blood vessels. And then smooth muscle helps to pump blood from the lower extremities to the heart, and that's in veins. So only veins have that. All right. So I believe that is all. You're to work on your tissues handout, and that will be due on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.